Hello, and you can't see us. There we go. Welcome to the Big 12 Mafia, the Holy Rivals, Fearless Friday Pick'em. Fearless Pick'em Friday, I think, actually, is how we say that. And we're going to be going over games. I believe we have 8 picked for this weekend. And that's what our show is usually on Fridays. And so we're going to be previewing the games. We hope to have Jason Watkins here, Hall of Fame college football show host, and if he makes it on time, we'll be able to include his picks and his preview of the Red River Rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma. On top of that, we'll possibly have additional guests. You never know who might pop in the studio. And and then we're just going to sort of get going. The Wild Utes going to be here in a little bit. We'll start touching on some news items between now and then. But first, before we do that, let's get some business done. For everybody that's watching right now, please subscribe. Give us a comment or suggestion. Give us a thumbs up on your on you approve the video. Hopefully you like it. And then make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications. That is so important, both on our Twitter and on our YouTube pages. Okay. So if you're watching on either Big 12 Mafia or the Holy Rivals page, make sure you subscribe. And we're going to get going. First, let me introduce guys in the house with me before you get here. My key contributors, partners in crime, Immaculate and Moen. How are you guys doing on a Friday?
Great.
Good. Got a good weekend of games for us this weekend, and all kinds of news coming out to talk about.
We do, and that's kind of why we're calling it Fearless, because as we know, some of the news out of Utah, for instance, this week has been controversial, and we'll review that with Ute. But we're not gonna. It's not gonna be contentious. I want to make one little side quest here, letting everybody know that's not what our show's about. We do debate on the show. We disagree heartily, but we're not disagreeable. And we try to do that on Twitter too. So if you're trying to engage with us and you're being aggressive or you're expecting us to lash out or something like that, it's simply not going to happen. And I would just ask you to, just nod your heads a little bit to these two guys, the Wild Ute, and even me a little bit for doing research. Our opinions are informed, and we're just trying to be entertaining. Nobody listens to us. We don't have cues into the schools that we talk about. So you can get mad at us all you want, but all it's really doing is just wasting your time. Anyway, so news item that I wanted to bring up first is this Dartmouth lawsuit that's, I believe, either to the NCAA or, tell us, actually, Immaculate, tell everybody what that lawsuit's about.
The Dartmouth issue is about the basketball team wanting to unionize, and there's a very funny backstory to that. I think some of the boys who are on the team were working in the cafeteria on campus, and the cafeteria workers unionized. And so they got the idea from that and carried it on to the basketball team, because the basketball team, as you may or may not know, everyone watching, the Ivy League does not do scholarships. So everyone who is on a sports team there, they're also paying tuition. So it's a different world there, and some of the student athletes there are starting to push back.
And the purpose of the lawsuit is what? What are they actually trying to get?
Basically the right to unionize.
So we're talking about players on university campuses, on teams that are trying to unionize to potentially get health benefits, retirement potentially, or at least health coverage. And
I don't know.
I don't
know if it goes that deep. It's really just any kind of compensation at all. Like, they don't get scholarships, they don't get pay. Like, even the people working in the cafeteria or students working in any other jobs on campus get basically more benefit than if you are a student athlete there. Their argument from the school side is that you are gaining educational value from being allowed to be part of those activities. It's really old school. It is a very old traditional outlook on it that they have fought to keep that way for a long time.
Moen, do you want to add anything to that before I ask more questions?
Student athletes. Oh, that is brilliant, sir.
That's it.
He undid everything I said. That was perfect.
So we know the Big Ten's talking about paying players, right?
Yeah.
Know that maybe even the SEC is. I don't have any new information on those, but I know that that has been talked about in the future, especially after this new mega billion-dollar deal with the Big Ten really opened people's eyes to what these players could possibly receive as benefits. So let's talk about what, and really quick, can you answer this question? Where is Dartmouth? Is that in Massachusetts?
I'm thinking New Hampshire.
All right, you look that up. Well, I'll keep wrapping up.
It's
So
it's
what
right
we're
below Dart Nose.
It's New Hampshire, Hanover, New Hampshire.
Okay, so New Hampshire. So these Ivy League players, right? They're in the Ivy League and they're looking for additional protections than what they might otherwise receive at other schools. But in the Ivy League, there's no athletic scholarships. Is that right?
Correct. They do some types of financial aid based upon need, and that's what the lawsuit against Brown University is about, and the claim of discriminatory financial aid, in which who gets decided who gets that and who doesn't.
Right.
There's that going on as well. There's a lot going on in the Ivy League that a lot of people don't realize right now.
So let's actually just circle back and actually discuss what services are currently being provided to regular student athletes out in the rest of the United States. They're receiving, in most cases, room and board. Their books are covered. They get subsidy for housing. There's also a food allowance. I can't remember how much that money would be. And then the scholarship, of course, which covers everything that has to do with the actual education. That's sort of the max package. That's a canned type of a scholarship. Are there any other pieces that I'm missing?
Not really. Kind of an interesting tidbit to go along with this. Dartmouth, their football team went 10-2 last year,
right?
And they actually qualified for the FCS championship tournament because FBS is behind the FBCS in terms of having a tournament. The FCS has had that for a while, and they won't participate in any of those postseason type games. And I think a lot of the reason is because they'd make money. They'd make money doing it, and then it'd be because those kids participated. So they keep them out of all these type of postseason events. And it's strange because I do believe they're the only conference in the Division I that has no form of student athlete scholarships whatsoever.
Right. They kind of feel though the education, right? You can say you graduate from Dartmouth. That's kind of, well, I mean, that's really what it is. Stanford hasn't embraced NIL up to now because they don't want to get into that, right?
That's like the next step though. But no, actually, Stanford does do NIL. In fact, I've seen some numbers, and they did have huge. There's some aspects of it they don't get into. I don't know. I am not well versed. I do not want to try and say like I know.
Yeah, we don't have to go off
on the Ivy side. It's way beyond that. Like they won't even pay them. And you got to remember, these Ivy schools, they do not have large enrollments.
Right.
They're small enrollments. So and the tuition per year is somewhere like $65,000 to $70,000. So if you're to think about every student athlete they have and what percentage of that is of their total student enrollment, and if you're to take away all the money that they pay in tuition to go there and take that away, and then on the reverse side add to that costs, cost of living there,
right?
All of that, the cost gets pretty heavy duty if these schools were to change over, and they might even have to relook at how small they've remained.
Okay. Before we continue, let's do some shout outs. We got a lot of people in here early. Glenn Lumen from, I think he's still in Oregon, actually. First in the house. Glenn's one of our paid subscribers. And I've got a video that was put together by Mo, and I'm going to try to throw that up later in the show to show quickly how you can sign up and be a paid member of the channels. Let's see here. We have KZ Zoo he wants to talk Missouri because Missouri's actually playing pretty well. Jim Reese, Ryan Thomas. Good to see you, Ryan. Been a minute. Sergeant Pickles, Rock Chalk 94. Good to see you, Sawyer. Let's see here. P.S. Doff in here to talk Kansas, maybe. Are they going to beat UCF? That's an outstanding question. Let's see here. Sergeant Pickles is definitely one of our, he's also one of our paid members. Don in Kansas, is that Marty McFly? Who are we talking about? We talking about Moen. Moen is Marty McFly. Yeah.
I think he was going for Doc Brown.
Okay,
Brown.
Doc Brown.
Doc
Okay.
Brown.
Sergeant Pickles says Dartmouth is in New Hampshire. We had that confirmed. Jim Reese. I just want to make sure we get everybody before we move on to the next thing. And then Mike Z. No, at P5 schools like Baylor, they get that. No at, you know what that means? That comment means?
He's talking about stipends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I thought he was talking about the Ivies. And
right.
The funny thing is now he brings up the stipends. That's actually something that was brought forward by the Autonomy Conference vote. If you remember.
Okay.
So that's where that came from.
All right, very good. I want to welcome in the house the man, the legend, Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame college football. How we doing, Jason? We need to get some clapping there, Moen. Can we get a clapping from him?
No horns down hat today?
Excuse me, hold on.
Where's the horns down hat? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that on the other night.
Just so you know, Jason, Moen's turned into my technical producer, so we're stepping up. We're doing claps and all kinds of things. So
yeah, I got something for you right here too.
All right. Oh boy, I like that song actually. I loved in the 80s and even in the late 70s. I loved Oklahoma football. Absolutely loved it. The Sooner Scooter.
Back when the King was there.
Right. And he was amazing, by the way.
He was.
Fantastic coach.
That was when Oklahoma had all the swagger.
What's that?
I said that's when Oklahoma had all the swagger. We talk about different brands at different times.
Yeah.
Very
like
much.
Miami and now Colorado, but at that time it was all Oklahoma.
Right. So we don't have Ute here. He's coming in from work, so he's going to be here in a few minutes. So Jason, catch us up on what this week has looked like for Texas and Oklahoma. Try to give everybody that's watching a good idea of what we expect to see on Saturday.
It's going to be like a fist fight. I think it's going to be a fist fight. That's where you go in, and I think in the trenches, and it's been a long time since you've seen Oklahoma. Well, it's been since 2011 was the last time they both came in undefeated and ranked in the top 15 in the country. Of course, Texas coming in at number 3 in the country after beating Alabama on the road. And then, of course, OU really hasn't had a great schedule that they've played, but what Oklahoma's done is do what they're supposed to do to the team in front of them. You're supposed to blow them out, you blow them out. You're supposed to shut them down, you shut them down. And so that's where you kind of go in and you look. As much as Texas talks about that Alabama win, I don't think that you were looking at the same Alabama team today that you saw in week 2. They had definitely had some issues going on with what they were doing on offense and their quarterback situation. I think that, and even then they still, gave them a fight. So, hey, it's a big win for them. I'm not trying to take anything away from Texas. It is what it is, but I think that I do believe that this is going to be a big time matchup of who wins in the trenches. Texas has one of the best offensive lines in the country. Oklahoma's always had a really good offensive line with Bill Bedenbaugh as the line coach. They hadn't been great in the run, but even coming into last week, Oklahoma still was ahead of them in rushing until they had a big game from, of course, they had a 300-yard rushing game last week against Baylor, of course. But, it was Baylor. That being said, I think it's going to come down to who we're talking about the number 3 scoring defense in the country in Oklahoma.
Right.
They definitely have I think they definitely have the they're probably a little better than secondary. Definitely better than secondary. They're a little bit. I think they're a little deeper at linebacker. Defensive line's pretty. I would almost say it's pretty even defensive line wise. Offensive line, no doubt about it. Texas has the they have the advantage there, no doubt. I mean, that's one thing that Steve Sarkisian, for everything that he hasn't done, as a head coach, I'll say that with this job, he came in. They got the NIL structure set up for the offensive line. They're paying these guys right. They're making sure that they're getting taken care of first. And, when you're an offensive coach like he is, that's important, especially going into the SEC here next year. You've got to be huge and really good in the trenches. Obviously, Coach Brent Venables is a year behind where Sark is as far as recruiting and getting ready for the SEC. But he did really well in the portal on the defensive line, especially. You go in and get a guy like Rondell Bothroyd out of Wake Forest, who's played some defensive end. He's been very good. Trace Ford out of Oklahoma State. He's been healthy this year, and when he was healthy at OSU, he was really good. He's been really good for Oklahoma as well. You go and get Desan McCullough, who's a outside linebacker / defensive end edge rush guy. They're going to probably play him more at the cheetah position, which is kind of a linebacker role. But he was a freshman All-American at Indiana last year. They have really focused on the defensive line in particular and the secondary. And then you've got Danny Stutzman, who is, arguably the number one linebacker in the country. He leads everybody in tackles. He's had multiple games with over double-digit tackles. So it's going to come down to which one of these teams can establish the run. I think that you would have to expect that Texas is probably has the advantage in that with their offensive line, although they hadn't been as great with their run blocking as they have with their pass blocking. So it could end up being, if you can establish the run enough to get some guys in the box, make sure that, you have some openings. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. So I really do think this is going to be one of those. I've got it picked at like 28-17 to Oklahoma, but because they just haven't given up a rushing touchdown all season. They've given up a little bit in between the 30s, but they haven't given up. Their red zone defense is fantastic. Again, we've seen a lot of great things out of Texas though too. So we expect like I said, bare knuckle brawl tomorrow in the Cotton Bowl.
So I'm going to ask one question. I'm going to turn it over to either Moen or Immaculate, and that question is right here in front of you. Yeah. If they beat Texas, are they number one?
If Texas wins, are they number one? Or if Oklahoma beats Texas?
I was talking about Oklahoma, but you could say the same thing if Texas.
Well, I thought that said if Texas wins, they will be number one. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I would think more than likely.
Okay.
But if Oklahoma wins, I don't see them really making them number one. They still haven't. That will be their one marquee win. I think it certainly puts them in the top 5.
Yeah.
And probably into that. They may switch places, but I wouldn't see them probably being number one. And I think that Texas can lose this and still be in contention. I think if Oklahoma loses this, it's going to be very hard to, even though the schedule works out pretty well, aside from BYU, Kansas on the road, and we're not sure what's going to happen with Jalen.
Yeah, Jalen. Yeah,
not sure what's going to happen with Jalen at this point. You do have West Virginia at home, UCF at home, but the schedule sets up nicely. You get TCU at the end of the year at home as well. I think that BYU game would be the last real opportunity if this team is able to continue not looking ahead. Things like that. That's always something that you have to do as a team. But realistically, if you look at it, if they can beat Texas, and this is a confident football team, especially, I think all the way around, they're confident as all get out. But if you can beat Texas, you've got a pretty clear path to the college football playoff here. Now you're probably going to have to beat them again. Depending upon what happens with them. And I think that makes the Kansas State game really big, as long as Kansas State continues, taking care of its business as well. But if they can beat Kansas State, which they are at home, you're probably going to see this game again. People talked about Coach I was talking to me about on the show on I think it was Tuesday, that it's hard to beat somebody twice in the season, which I would agree with.
Yeah.
The thing is I just don't know with the way that if not having that Georgia game at the first of the year, when they canceled that game because of the move to the SEC and not being able to like give it back to them as a non-con game or whatever, that was something that Greg Sankey did. That really hurt them as far as being able to get there, unless they go undefeated. I think that if you were to be in a close game and then get to the conference championship game and win it, there's a chance you could still get in the playoff. But I think it's a significantly harder myself if you don't win this one. So I think you got to beat them twice, really, to be honest.
So, Matt, sorry, Jason, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was done.
I just want to tell everybody we've got some fantastic comments in the comment section. Keep them coming. We're trying to interact with everybody. This is sort of a lively show, so we get to them as we can. If you want to guarantee your comment is read, you could make it a super chat, send it in, and I read all those. We don't skip any of those. Or you could become a paying member of the channel, and then I defer to those comments first before I read general comments, just so everybody knows. I'm probably not going to bring it up again, but I want to let everybody know if they wanted to get their comment read. Okay, Immaculate.
Well, first thing, before I get into my crazy theory that I have for him, you see the question out there. Who would you say Oklahoma's biggest rival is between Texas and Oklahoma State?
Period. Texas. Period.
That was
not even close.
Pretty easy bet you're going to say that, but I figured I'd give you the answer on that one.
OSU, they don't. Everybody hates Oklahoma State, but they don't beat OU.
No, I mean, when you look at the image you got behind you and everything that goes around that game, it's pretty hard to.
Yeah. No, it's Texas. It's Texas.
It's wild. So my crazy theory here about what could happen. What happens if A&M beats Bama and Oklahoma beats Texas? How far does Alabama drop?
Yeah. That's a good question, man.
Because they're kind of being hung up by everyone thinking Texas is so good. But if Oklahoma beats Texas in this game, that little prop just gets kicked out from underneath them.
They haven't had the greatest. They haven't had the greatest schedule outside of Alabama.
They haven't. Well, they played. Yeah. They played Rice to start the year, and they struggled with them. Right. And then they played. They beat up on Baylor last week, but you better. There's no reason why they shouldn't have. So, and then it's even the Wyoming game, I don't know when everybody decided that Wyoming's so great just because they beat Texas Tech. They were at home, but it's Wyoming. They haven't won a Mountain West Conference ever. So I don't know what we're talking about. You know what I mean? So in the end, do I give them their props for beating Alabama? Absolutely. You go in there and do that. But I think you caught Alabama at a time of transition with their coaching staff. Could you beat them again if you played them again? Maybe, maybe not. Because it was a dogfight until the end, and good for Sark and the Horns for going in there and getting it done. Because generally speaking, they have not looked very good after halftime and adjustments get made.
Have you looked at A&M? Do you know much about them at all?
Yeah, A&M's good. I think
they could beat Alabama personally.
Oh, they can. Defensively.
They look like it.
Defensively, they're as good as anybody in the country, particularly in the trenches, right? And that's the one thing that A&M has done a great job of over the last few years is like that defensive recruiting and how they play on defense has been great. It's been an offensive issue with Jimbo.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like this backup quarterback might be a little better in Petrino's system and allowing them to do some different things. I don't know that he's a better quarterback than, the guy that went down, but look, they're at home. They've lost to them there at home with better players and a better quarterback, a better system. It wouldn't surprise you. They almost beat them in Tuscaloosa last year and they were 5-8.
Yeah.
So to me, I really think that, or 5-7, whatever it was, but I think that, I could see an A&M winning that. I don't know you look at A&M, their loss came to Miami on the road, and it's a good Miami team. I think that Miami has turned some heads a little bit. Everybody was kind of down on them after what they looked like last year. It's a tough place to turn around, and it's easy to just discount whatever. You know, I saw somebody in here saying, you know, after 49-0, it was wet blanket. I already knew what it was that. After 49-0, what does that mean? You know what I mean? You know, like that's obviously that lazy look at things of like, yeah, that's the same football team. And that's the same thing that you see from a lot of Texas fans, is that acting like they're playing the same team. Number one, 49-0. They didn't have a quarterback that was serviceable. You know, Lincoln Riley gutted this football team when he left. Not everybody went with him to USC, but they lost over 44 players. And since then, they've basically turned over the entire 85-man roster. 85 different players. The only guys that are left, you're talking about like Woody Washington, from the original team, Danny Stutzman, some of the guys that they recruited but hadn't really played. I think Danny Stutzman was part of that. You know, but in the end, it's like this is a completely different football team than you saw a year ago. So to talk about, and then Dylan Gabriel didn't play in the game or whatever, I think that's a question mark as well. But I would tell you that that this is not, you generally ever on either side of it, even if one team is really bad and one's really good, it's never generally a blowout, right? You might win by a couple of touchdowns towards the end of the game, but it is.
Here's what I think on it, though, and just not to cut you off too, but I also want to get down to Simone can ask his question. I just had one more for you because we talked on your show,
yeah,
and you know I'm enamored with that Texas line. But you're right.
No,
it's not a line that's built to do the run game. It's built to do the pass game. They don't have drive.
So Jonathan Brooks has looked really good the last couple of weeks. I know that.
They're just big elephants that you can't move. And that's why I asked you how Oklahoma's defensive line looks, because those guys have to have it in the legs. They got to have that drive to move those elephants, because I don't think Texas is going to run the ball against you guys all that well.
I don't think they're going to either. I think they think they're going to.
Well, you know, but it's going to come down to how well you guys defend the pass, because they're going to have time. He's going to have time. Like if your D-backs can hang tight with their receivers, I think Oklahoma could carry this. But that's going to be it right there. I think that's the fight, is that the passing game and how well your D-backs cover.
Sure.
Moen?
And the secondary-wise, go ahead.
I was just going to let Moen go, but if you can reply, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to answer his question. To me, their rush defense looks really good. You know, Oklahoma is number 4, tied for 4th in scoring defense. Their rush defense, they are right around, they're in the top 30. They're giving up about 105 yards per game. Now, Texas has been getting almost 200 yards a game, so something's got to give there. I would tell you that team tackles for loss, OU's right near the top of the country there as well, in the top 10. They're getting a lot of tackles for loss. And this is coming with most of the teams that they've played have been in max protect for most of the game. So they're getting not a ton of sacks, but they've gotten a lot of TFL. So are you going to keep, you know, a tight end in there and do a lot of that? But I agree with you. I think that the main thing that you have to do is dirty up that pocket, Immaculate. I think you have to dirty up that pocket.
That's going to be tough.
His timing. Yeah, you know what I mean? You have to do it, though. If you can shut down the run enough to where you're going to get them into a situation where they're trying to be one-dimensional, and you can get to Quinn. If you don't,
that's one of the challenges.
Yeah, listen, if you end up having to put 8 guys in the box, you're screwed. You know what I mean? I really feel like that. That's one of those things that you're going to have to make sure that you got to get to him. You got to pressure him. Even if you don't get him down, you got to get to him. And I think defensive line-wise, they've been really good, man. I mean,
for anyone who likes a line game, for anyone who likes to watch that part of a game, this is you can't miss this game. Like, I know a lot of Big 12 folks here don't want to talk too highly about Texas and Oklahoma, and I get that. But this line that he's created for Texas may be one of the best of all time. And I'm really looking forward to see when Oklahoma does against it, because if they do well, they might be one of the best. So I'll leave it at that.
That went a little bit longer than I was expecting.
Sorry.
You guys got into it and you weren't paying attention to the rest of us. So I think that was pretty funny, actually. Jason, you're full of so much knowledge. We really appreciate you being here. Moen, did you have a question for Jason?
No, I just want to agree. I think the offensive line from Texas, everybody on that line is first-round NFL talent.
Yeah,
I think
crazy.
their run game has so much improved over the beginning of the season to now.
It has.
Oklahoma's gap defense is going to have to be on point because those guys on the front are creating gaps. They're making lanes for Brooks to run through. So I think that's what it comes down to. If Texas has over 150 rushing yards this game, it's a Texas win.
Yeah, I'll admit, I'll agree with that. If they can do that, that's going to be tough to defend against.
Yeah, and I think the other thing though, Texas has had a hard time in the red zone. If they're going to have to do well in the red zone, I think as well. And again, Oklahoma hasn't given up a rushing touchdown this season so far. Now, again, if we're going to say Oklahoma hasn't played anybody, blah 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 blah, then we got to say that Texas, aside from Alabama, hasn't either. So as good as they've run the football really good in the last couple of weeks against pretty bad opponents. So, I mean, we can say whatever. And again, hey man, I'm not going to sit here and predict, or I can predict an Oklahoma win. Am I going to guarantee it? No, man. I know how this game is, and it's listen, there's a reason why they're number 3 in the country. I think that they're very good in a lot of ways. I think that a lot of folks give them the advantage with the receivers. I wouldn't. I think Oklahoma is so much deeper at the wide receiver position. They've had some guys that have stepped up this year, big guys that are going to really hurt their secondary, I believe. And that's going to be a situation that's going to definitely help OU. I think OU needs to get the run established enough to keep Dylan Gabriel clean as well. So give him some opportunities to take some shots. But I think if you're talking about the explosiveness of these two offenses, I don't think it's close. I think it's Oklahoma.
You know everything about these teams. I don't know if we ever talked with anyone who knows more about that team. My goodness.
All right.
I've been Hey,
you
man,
were ready for
job.
this one.
This is what I
know.
do.
You are very good.
I knew when I invited him that it's the full package. When Jason's here, you're not going to get thin answers. So that's just what it's part of the deal, right, Jason? You just have to go with what you got.
Fair enough, man. Sorry about that.
No,
you haven't done
I
love
wrong.
it. I love it, but yeah, he's got a whole thing lined up here.
Me compared to Jason when we're evaluating our teams is like a kindergartner versus
I'm not stepping into that ring.
Yeah, he is anyway. That's why he's here, and that's why he has a fantastic
Nick Anderson
show.
is who I was talking about as the main guy. He's had 5 touchdown catches on, and the guy's 6'4", redshirt freshman guy. He might be the best athlete on the field when he gets on it. Then you've got a guy that, Oklahoma fans have really been waiting on Jaden Gibson, who's a 6'5", 6'6" sophomore as well. They both have had big games. Last week, Jaden actually had a touchdown last week where he caught it over the middle. It was a big, long play, but then he took 3 guys into the end zone with him. They're playing with a lot of confidence and they're playing physical. I think that's the biggest thing. If I have a reason why I would tell people stop looking at last year, stop thinking about last year, because this is not Lincoln Riley's football team anymore. They have taken over the attitude of Brent Venables, which is toughness, attention to detail, hard-nosed, play hard. This is not a Lincoln Riley finesse team anymore. This is not what it is. So I truly believe when I said at the start this is going to be a fist fight, that's exactly what it's going to be. They're going to come out and they're going to get into a brawl.
I picked Oklahoma at the beginning of the year to get through the Big 12. So Wild Utes here finally got home. He's moving. He's got kids he's taking care of. He has a job he has to go to. So
I'm so stoked that I don't have to do these shows here at a makeshift offices now. I'm going to have my own office here next week. So
we're excited.
Everything's all good in the Wild Ute household. Hey, Jason, welcome.
What's up, man? How you been?
Been well, yeah. And I've got good news for you. I'm picking Oklahoma. Straight up over Texas.
Good job.
Well, I guess I can write his down.
Let's get to that. While we're here, let's just dive into the picks.
Okay.
All right. Jason is our resident expert for this week. So we do play with the covers, Jason. So if you take a win, it comes with the points. And then all pushes they're empty. We don't do anything if it's on the number. So let's start with UCF Kansas. Texas and Oklahoma would be last. Jason, who do you take? UCF Kansas. This is the Kansas team that might not have Jalen Daniels.
I still think Bean is better than anybody that they've got at UCF. It's on the road in Lawrence. Give me the Jayhawks.
Okay. You.
I think Bean's going to throw the magical bean for a couple touchdowns here. I think that KU takes care of business. I think UCF's learning life the hard way here in a Power 5, A5 conference. It's not going to get any prettier. I think UCF's going to have a tough year.
Moen.
I like UCF. I think Gus Malzahn just signed that extension. I think teams would come back after an ass whipping, and that was a bad ass whipping last week to kind of collapse there at the end. So I think they're going to come back. I don't have enough faith in Bean yet.
Right. Very fair. Let's see. Is that
how many games has
Immaculate?
Bean played over the years, guys? Like
he's played a lot. He's played a lot.
Started like 10 plus games, like over the last couple of years, right?
What's his record?
It was 40 to 30, or it was like 49 to 42 against Oklahoma last year. Now, of course, again, that was Oklahoma's worst defense in history, probably. But I mean, he can throw the ball. I think he actually probably throws it a little better than what Jalen does.
He does.
But he's not that dual threat that like Jalen. I mean, Jalen's an electric player, so.
Isn't Bean like a
I am going
fast
with Bean.
sprinter here too?
Well, Bean's got plenty of experience, guys. He played. Look how much he played last year. I mean, this isn't your usual backup. I mean, I do have Kansas winning myself as well today in this poll, and I think it's because of Bean and because it's at home. I think that's what's going to end up doing it for them. It's this, they just had that letdown as well. But I got Kansas. Who did you have on this one?
I've got KU.
I haven't picked yet.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. You still got to pick two on these guys.
Okay, so everybody else is picked, right? I'm last.
Yes.
Okay, I'll pick, and then I'll pick the next one right after it. So if we're trying to win these pick'em tournaments, I'm actually going to go with UCF. I want Kansas to win, but I think UCF, especially with the points, I'm going to come to compete. So I'm going to go UCF.
Well, the points are against them, so you're picking them straight up.
Yeah. Yes. Well, UCF gets 3. So.
No.
Oh, UCF's giving 3.
UCF's giving 3.
Oh, then forget it. I'll take the points and go to Kansas. I apologize.
Okay. I was going to say, I just want to make sure.
Thank you.
Isn't that a weird line though? Like
I think it's weird.
Line for being
on the road.
I think it's a tough road game for anybody.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because you take the road plus losing the points, and that's kind of a tough one to pick.
So you're saying like UCF 6 better than KU in a neutral field?
Right.
That seems wrong. It's like exact opposite of what I would think.
I think they're just giving bad odds because they don't have the starting quarterback at Kansas. But Bean is not your usual backup.
I think Baylor
after the loss last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyways, okay.
So hopefully Kansas and hopefully Jalen Daniels play. I don't think he will.
He won't.
So, I'm going to take Wazoo in the points.
Wazoo.
Jason.
Yeah, give me Washington State in the points also.
Moen?
I'm taking UCLA. I think Dante Moore. I think he's finally getting his feet back under him from that awful performance in Utah.
Okay. Well, Utah makes a lot of people look bad, though.
Right.
Yeah.
They do.
They made him look really bad.
They also uglied the game up very well.
Yeah. Immaculate.
I am going with WSU. I think that their offense is spectacular. I think this could be a shootout, but I don't think UCLA has done enough to show that they are ready yet to score with Washington State. I think they're going to look better than they did against Utah, but Washington State outscores them. I
think it's interesting here. Sergeant Pickles, who's one of our paid subscribers, he says Wazoo is underrated. They are legit good, and he's a UW fan. So
another Big Ten transfer quarterback, I think.
Yeah, Wazoo is good. They're legit good. UCLA is good. No one's talking about UCLA because they went to Rice Eccles. It's an extremely hard place to play. That game was nuts too. It's been off a bye week for UCLA. UCLA's defense,
game, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a tight game. Utah barely escaped with the pick 6. Like UCLA is a much better team than you'd anticipate. This is a home game for UCLA coming off a bye with all this Wazoo hype and everything. UCLA. I'm taking UCLA in this game.
All right.
Nice.
For sure. Like UCLA's defense is good, guys. Like
He's seen them in person.
I know.
Yeah.
I like this roster. Like I like Dante Moore after a bye week at home. So I'm taking UCLA. Touchdown victory.
Gotcha.
All right. Why don't you pick the next one?
So we're Kentucky, Georgia here.
Yep.
Sir.
Oh man, 14.5.
That's a
Mhm.
lot of points.
It's
Mhm.
a home game. Kentucky's hot right now. Georgia's somewhere in between. I'm still going Georgia. Give me Georgia. I'll give away 14.5. I think Georgia by
2 touchdowns.
Georgia
Jeez.
by 17.
Okay.
Oof.
All right, Immaculate.
I'm going opposite of this. I watched the Kentucky game, and I'll be damned if that team is not good. And it kind of pisses me off a little bit because Stoops is one of the guys we kind of would like to see come over to Iowa. And with this team, that's not happening. I'm taking Kentucky. 14 points. The Georgia offense is not that good. There's no way they're keeping that much of a lead on Kentucky, in my opinion. We'll see. Kentucky.
Moen.
I am going to take Kentucky. I'm going to take the points, but I think Kentucky wins this game.
Could
What?
Could easily. I totally think so.
Kentucky knocks
This is
off
it.
Georgia
I'm with you.
at Georgia.
I'm with
I
you.
think it happens. I think Mark Stoops is a great coach. I think Georgia
love
has
it.
played sloppy. 3 of the games they've played this year have been incredibly sloppy.
Mhm.
I think this is the game that catches them. I think
Yep.
they play flat-footed. Kentucky comes out there and wins that football game.
This
But I will
smells
take
like
the
that Ole
points.
Miss Alabama game of a couple
I
weeks
will
ago.
take the points.
It does, but we actually had like an amazing game to see Kentucky. Like last week, they have like 300 yards rushing, some crazy. I mean, they just destroyed Florida.
Georgia.
Florida's trash.
Yeah. Anyway, Jason.
Florida's trash. This is between the hedges. They've not been as bad on offense as people think. And my thing is that Kentucky's going to try to out Georgia in Athens. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. It's the same. Styles make fights, in my opinion. If you remember the Michigan game against them a couple of years ago in the playoff, they tried to out Georgia, and got throttled. It's just not something that you can really do. I think that if you're a team like Ohio State, where you can get up and down the field, especially you've got that track speed, you've got the receivers, you're not going to try to outdo what they do. That's
Is
your
Georgia going to get
opportunity
those
to
points, though? Will Georgia get those points?
the last couple of weeks, their quarterbacks passed for over 300 yards both games, and I think that everybody would tell you that knows anything about the Georgia Auburn game or anytime you go down on the plains, weird things happen. Even though it's a bad team, weird things happen. I think that they're getting ready to turn this thing around. It's still the defending champions. Georgia, I think the Kentucky probably gets it. It's probably 3 touchdowns.
So you're taking Georgia. I'm taking that.
Okay. Georgia laying the points.
Okay. And what do you got?
I will take. What the hell? I'll take Kentucky in the points.
All right.
And the next game, Colorado ASU 4. I am going to take Colorado.
Okay. Who wants next?
I'll take next.
We'll just go in reverse. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, so Colorado's so hard to pick this year. It's hard to get a feel for this team. I think that I think they're a much better team than ASU, but they're also inconsistent. I feel like Colorado's the play here. I'm just recalling what happened at TCU. That was a road game. You played well. And I think they're getting a little healthier too, so I'll take Buffs. The Buffs.
Okay. Immaculate.
This is a tough one. I actually get to watch this on Pack Network. Lucky me. Finally works out. But it's really hard to pick this on ASU. They have looked better under Dillingham running the play calling, and Colorado is not up to speed yet because they do not have Travis back. But I do believe that at the end of that game, they kind of found themselves on what to do without Travis. So I think they got this, and I think Colorado wins this. But I think initially it's going to be a slow game at the start.
Okay. Moen?
I agree. I think last week sometimes you win more from a loss than you do a win, and that was the case for Colorado. They found their identity at the end of the last week's game.
I agree.
They know how to win. So I see they're going to be a big win for them. It's going to be. It's only 4. I see Colorado by 2 touchdowns.
Okay. And it's only 4
Yeah,
points,
I think I'm gonna quote Ryan Thomas in the chat. He says ASU is hot garbage. Colorado blows them out.
Man,
Right.
I was almost going to go to this game too, but it's still a little hot here.
All right. So you took Colorado.
Yeah, I think we're all on Colorado.
Across the board.
Okay. Jason, do Alabama, Texas A&M.
Ooh, Alabama, Texas A&M. Oof, I gotta pick this first. Okay. You almost want to go with A&M after what we were just talking about. I could see this happening. In the end, I don't see it happening. I think Alabama in there finds a way to win.
Hang with it. All right.
I think they find a way to win. Look, man, I don't trust this marriage between Petrino and Jimbo, and I think that style wise, and I think that they're gonna have a heck of a game, and I definitely could go the other way. If this is a pick 'em though, and I would definitely pick Nick Saban over Jimbo Fisher anytime.
Yeah.
Okay, Moen.
I am going to take Alabama as well. Jimbo Fisher has never competed well against Nick Saban. I still don't. I'm with Jason completely. I put Nick Saban over Jimbo Fisher any day of the week. I think Alabama's going to win big.
Okay.
I'm going to stick with our talking point earlier. I'm going to go A&M, and is at A&M. Folks saying Alabama needs this more. I don't think anyone needs this win more than Texas A&M does, especially Jimbo Fisher.
They're desperate.
So if there's any game that would drive him to just take his hands off the wheel and let Petrino do what he does, this is it. And if they win this at home, this is going to be another. I think we may have one of the best weeks lined up, honestly, right now of games. That one's going to be a fun one, and I do think A&M will pull it off at home.
Okay,
It's hard to win at Kyle Field. That place is nuts, and
the 12s.
They had the 12th man, in
Seattle.
A&M fans have to be some of the most psycho people, right? I work with a lot of A&M fans, great people and everything, but when they talk about A&M, it's very cultish, at A&M and stuff.
Oh, it's not kind of ish.
It's like nothing else we see in the States as far as college football.
Man.
Nobody else has.
You want to make sure you're out of there by dark.
It's just nuts.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Texas A&M is the weirdest school.
It is strange. I've been to Kyle Field twice, and it was amazing place to watch a football game. The building actually sways. It's unbelievable. When I was in the press box that time, I thought it was coming out from underneath us. But great place to watch a game. They
definitely.
still suck, man. They're just not that good.
They're an average SEC team, but they're hard to beat at home. And I think this one, it seems like there's just some momentum going on with A&M this year. I know that they've the talented roster. They lost a bit last year in the transfer portal, but they're still super talented. One of the most talented rosters in college football,
especially on defense.
Yeah, and this is a pick. I'm going with the home team. Close, A&M.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm Texas A&M with the point. And then the next game, I'm taking Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the next game, I'm taking Notre Dame as well. I like Notre Dame. I mean, they survived versus Duke last week. Lucky to get past that game. That's kind of just one of those moments where you just survived and you're good to go. You could stabilize. Louisville's a good team, but Notre Dame, I think, is just going to be rip roaring, and they're gonna win this game playing a clean football game at Louisville.
Has Louisville played anybody for that undefeated record?
I know they beat up on Pitt, but Pitt hasn't been good. Let me look at their schedule, but I really like their coach. I like Coach Braum a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be a good team. I just don't think they're Notre Dame quality yet. And this Notre Dame, this Notre Dame team has some drive right now to get this done. So I don't think Notre Dame goes into this game sloughing at all. I definitely think Notre Dame.
Okay,
I'm Notre Dame.
I figured.
I would expect Notre Dame to win, but here's the thing about it is you don't want to get caught looking ahead at USC next week. For them, that's a concern that you would have. You would think that they probably wouldn't after that Duke game on the road last week. What a way to win that though. I mean, on 4th and 16, at that 50. Good grief. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was over.
Hartman showed that was a gut check for Hartman.
It was a gut check. Listen, they look great, and they look. Here's the thing that I really like about Notre Dame is their physicality is off the charts. I think they're going to run through USC. I think this game might be harder for them than the USC game will be.
Okay, maybe. So you're taking Notre Dame?
I am taking Notre Dame, but And man, I don't know.
It'd be a good game.
It's a tough one to pick, really. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a potential trap there.
All right.
Hey, does Sam Hartman remind anybody else of Keanu Reeves?
Oh my gosh! I haven't even looked at his face.
Seriously, the guy last week when he was playing versus Duke and stuff, he kept flipping his hair back and everything. It's like, this is Keanu Reeves, man. This is Johnny Utah here.
Johnny Utah.
Wild Ute, Maryland to Ohio State.
Ohio State. I know Maryland's everyone's little sweetheart and everything, and Maryland's so great. Maryland Terrapins. Ohio State's going to kick their butts.
Probably going to blow them out, yeah.
There's a 20-point line. I'm going to go with Ohio State. Prove me wrong, Maryland. I dare you to. Keep it close or win the game. Let's see it. Ohio State.
All right. Immaculate.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to Ohio State. It is quite the line.
20
points
is a ton.
It's at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State's been scoring in the 60s. I think Maryland's good for, 21 maybe against them. They're a good team. But I think Ohio State could double that up. So yeah, Ohio State.
Before I ask Moen, you have been telling everybody Maryland's better than they think they are.
They're good.
You're at home. You're laying 20 points. Are you at all concerned about this matchup?
I'm taking Maryland.
See? There you go.
What?
20 points is too much.
I'm going to take Maryland as
Ohio State secondary is still suspect.
Here we go.
And Tagovailoa can whip that ball around.
Right.
This might end up being a shootout. So don't be surprised.
You are not wrong.
Where's the line open at?
A one touchdown.
I don't know.
It opened at 19 and a half. Now it's
only moved a half point.
Yeah. So, but I think Ohio State will win, but I'm taking Maryland to cover.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I'm with you. I think there could be a blowout here. But I honestly think that we hadn't seen Ohio State killing everybody either.
Not yet.
And listen, it's not like they've played the best teams aside from Notre Dame. So I feel like Ohio State wins. I think that Mike Locksley's a good coach. They've got a good quarterback. They can keep it close, and I think this is one of those styles make fights game too. They're gonna be able to get out there and throw the ball around as well. And so I like their opportunity to get in there and stay close to it. I wouldn't pick them to win.
So you got Maryland because of points.
Because of the points, yeah. I'd pick. As a gambler, I would definitely take the points.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
I promise you this: if Maryland wins this game, I will always respect the Terrapin football program. In the future, if they win this game straight up versus Ohio State, it will completely change my perception and everybody else's perception.
Maryland is going to get one of the big three in the Big Ten East this year. They're either going to beat Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State. I'm calling it.
Yeah,
probably Penn State.
They're going to beat one of them. So
you said that before the season started, Moen.
Moen's phenomenal.
If you think about Locksley too, he's one of those offensive coordinators from Alabama when they were at their best.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not like they don't know what they're doing there, and it's a tough place to build a championship or build a program at all. Really, would be Maryland, but they got the right guy to do it. And they're giving him enough time to where they didn't kick him out the door in a couple of years.
Yeah, I thought they were going to fire him last year, actually. Yeah, they had that hot start, and then
it's a tough place to play. You're playing in the same division as Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. Yeah. If they were playing in the West, they'd probably have played for the championship by now.
Yeah.
All right.
This next one's going to be, this one could get built up a little bit here.
Yeah, Jason's going to go last.
Jason, yeah.
So, because you guys can't cheat, you can't change it.
I don't get to dodge him. Okay.
Nope. After Jason talks, nobody gets to pick.
All right.
So I'm gonna take Oklahoma in the points.
And I'm just trying to pull up the score from last year, 49-0.
Are you seriously doing that? Are you seriously doing that? Last year,
this matters because
anything I said.
I came in a little late. I didn't hear anything you said.
I was like, this is gonna be fun.
It's 40, but like Jason, 49-0. Whenever you get beat 49-0, you know what the OU players and when the staff they've been looking.
You know how many of those guys are still around?
364 days.
You know how many of those guys
Jason,
are still around?
No, Jason. I'm just saying this is actually added momentum and added just juice for this game. That's why I've got Oklahoma winning it straight up. When you get beat that bad one year and stuff, especially versus a rival,
Smart guy.
that ain't going to happen again.
It's not.
OU's
Yeah,
going to come out
it's not the
and
same
play.
football team. Yeah.
So who's
their
Moen
heads
going
are.
with? Who's Moen got?
Well, the Moens, no, I'm asking Ute.
Oh, I thought
OU.
you just said
No.
OU.
No, it's Ute. You said OU, Ute.
He said
I'm
OU.
taking-
I wasn't trying to
taking
cut him off. I thought
Oklahoma.
he just said
I'm
OU.
taking Oklahoma straight up.
Okay, there we
But
go.
they're with the point. I'll take the points too.
Immaculate.
Sorry, I wasn't being. I thought he. Oh, I gotta go. Okay.
That's fine.
I am as much of a junkie as I am for realignment. I'm also a junkie for offensive lines. And for me, I think Oklahoma has a good chance to win this. But for right now, I got to go with that offensive line. I think that because at 5.5, I mean, we're talking one score difference. This is basically straight up.
Right.
So I'm going to go with their offensive line until I see otherwise. But if Oklahoma is able to win this, then they are for real, and I'm looking at them as a CFP team. So for now, though, Texas.
They're my sneaky
Wow.
pick. All right,
I'm
Moen.
shocked that an Iowa guy is enamored with offensive line.
Yeah. Big shocker.
I like Texas. I still think Texas is the best team in the country. I like Texas to cover.
Very good. I you know what, we next week maybe we can put in a little more research and we actually can pick the final score of the feature matchup.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that. We're not going to do that now, but anyways, so let's get off of that. Jason, you can stick around if you'd like.
Yeah.
We're going to get into some news and notes here. Immaculate, before we move on, do you have anything else you wanted to bring up about the matchups?
No, I think we went over that quite a bit. And I got
Okay.
everyone's marked down.
Okay.
So we're good.
So I need to show everybody, and I need to get the link up. Give me 1 second. So you and I yesterday kicked off our original broken away Holy Rivals show.
That's right.
And we put it together last night, and I'm going to bring up the page so everybody can see it. It's actually make sure we get the right one. I think so. Is this the one with Jeff? Oh no, that's the wrong link. I apologize. I'll look for the real link. Why don't you catch everybody about what we talked about?
Yeah, so we split the Holy Rival show off the Big 12 Mafia, just so we can get a little bit more into Utah BYU type content, Big 12 based content matchups, and more short analytical videos like we were doing in the past with NSF data research. And so we kicked it off on the Holy Rivals channel, get a new channel, so go check that out. With a conversation about the ACC's grant of rights. Yesterday, we did a short video, 30-minute video. We brought an attorney in, and we had a lot of questions, some Q&A going on with that. He kind of outlined everything that's going on and legal strategies and how to attack the grant of rights for the ACC. You might have heard some of these before, maybe through Peek Around the Corner or other sources, but some new ideas too. Definitely check it out and stuff. It's really educational, plus like kind of some insights on what to expect in the future, probably. Now these schools are going to approach that. So
I found
we just put that out this morning.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, brand new
Let me
channel.
bring it
It's the
up.
Holy Rivals channel.
So I just want to show everybody. So this is Holy Rivals branded. Everything's together. Oh, I need to share my screen. So this is Holy Rivals branded. Everybody, you have to go to a separate link. It's brand new. And last night we talked about the ACC Gore, just so everybody knows. I'll take the link for this video and I'll post it in the comment section. If you would like to know how to get to this site, we're trying to get everybody that's a subscriber to also subscribe to the Holy Rivals channel. There's the link for the video. We would like to invite everybody, if you can, to go to that channel and subscribe, because we're going to be doing a little more breakdowns. And, you know, that's just one of the things that we wanted to feature.
Sure.
Let me do one other thing. Coos, are you still out there? I need you. I need you. I needed you right at 6 o'clock, but we finished early a little bit. So if you can join, I sent Coos the link. He wanted to chat for a second as well. We're going to go over news and notes. If he's still there, he'll join. So let's get wrapped up. I know the talk of the town in the last 24, 48 hours has been a lot about Utah and news around Utah. The very first story, which was amazing, is an NIL came out and they're supplying Ram trucks, brand new ones, 2024 trucks, to all of the scholarship players that are on the team. And it's a continuing lease. As long as you're still a student in good standing, you get to keep the truck. You have to pay taxes. Obviously, you have to pay for your gas. But it's an amazing thing, right? I think it might be the first in the country to do it. And that news was huge yesterday. My analysis right at the beginning, before I even thought about Utah, was what's the liability for these kids driving trucks? If they get in a horrible accident and it's in a NIL truck for Utah, is that a problem? I just asked the question. I wasn't pointing fingers or anything, not negative or positive. So what I wanted to do first is to start off with our resident expert with Utah, and that's Wild Ute, and then everybody else will follow behind what his comments. But I want to tell everybody out there watching, you're not going to see us fighting. We're not here for conflict. We all support each other, and this is going to be a discussion. If you come into the comments and you want more of a fight, you might as well just turn us off. Anyway, Ute, go ahead and tell us. We're going to start with the NIL thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do that, thank you, Runnin' Ryan Thomas. Really appreciate that. You guys do a great job with the show.
Thank you.
Thank you much. And now we'll get into the topic at hand. Here we go. So with the NIL, I think that's brilliant marketing and stuff to give a lease out to these kids so they've got a car in college, right? So they're not having to pay a lease or buy their own car and stuff. So I think it's brilliant NIL. I've got no issues with that and stuff. It seems like some people have a beef with if they own the car, they're just leasing it, right? Isn't that really what's the issue? I don't honestly know why it's such an issue. I don't know why this is such a controversy or anything. I think it's kind of a cool thing, just letting these kids lease out a car.
People are pissy about it, or
yeah,
what?
I think the BYU folks are upset. I don't know. I don't even understand really why it's such a big deal.
That's,
Like,
I don't think
why don't you lay it out, like, because I think that it's brilliant actually. Like, as a Ute fan and stuff, and I think any other school would say that's really good, marketing, NIL stuff. So I think that I'll give 2 thumbs up, and I don't see how it became such a controversy. I guess
I don't think it is a controversy.
It's definitely a controversy.
It isn't. It isn't. In my opinion, Utah and BYU, when any news item pops up, it immediately becomes a conflict.
Yeah.
But once those people filter off, they actually can start dealing with the story. For instance, when the story first came out, they said it was a 6-month lease. That's it. They didn't say anything about continuing. It just said the original report they put out was 6-month lease. It took the entire day to find out that it was actually a 6 repeatable, right? So the initial responses you're going to get, anything BYU, are always going to be conflict and teasing and pointing fingers. And it's not a big mystery. There isn't a question about whether they deserve it. At least not that I've seen from BYU fans. My only thing is it's actually a structural thing. It has to do just with the liability of the school. It doesn't matter what the school is. I think there's some risk there. Sergeant Pickles just put a question in, and he says, let me bring it up because he just did it right here. He says, Bomber, I think you aren't factoring in the liability of that they probably all drive their own cars anyways. That's absolutely true, Pickles. The difference is this one is an NIL car. There is a difference. They don't own these. They don't get to keep them. So it's going to have that NIL brand associated with it. Does that help a little bit, you?
I guess I still so I guess your thought is that the issue is that the NIL is not paying for their insurance.
No. I'm more worried. It's a PR question. It's not.
I think the PR is great. I think this is a great deal. 6-month leases. Like,
what happens when one of them take it down to Moab and roll it over?
Yep, that was my question. When that day comes, when there's a picture on social media of an upside down truck.
Or there's a 3-car pileup on I-15.
So if they get in a wreck, who's going to be responsible for the liability?
No, the PR part of it. Just assigning blame. How does the school manage?
Well, what if you gave them the car and they took it down to Moab and wrecked it too? Like,
as long as it has the NIL name attached to it, it would be a sponsored car.
I think that we're kind of going down a wrong path where we're overanalyzing it.
Yeah.
Cool thing
I'm
here.
only talking about like the imagery of like an upside down, like just because it has all the Utah stuff on it. I would agree with him that like actually legally, I'm sure that's probably all in there. The issue is like when you have some serious driving areas like Moab, they're going to have to probably be directed, do not take this truck out there. Because otherwise you're going to have a picture pop up with one upside down, because that could very easily happen out there. There's some serious areas. So
that's why I brought it up. I wanted to see if anybody else had questions about it. That's it. Hey, Coos, welcome to the show.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
You bet, of course.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you have any questions about this NIL thing with the trucks, Coos, before we move to the next one?
I don't really have any questions about it. I just don't know what all the hoopla is about. It's
okay.
I mean,
Right.
It's
might not be
NIL,
anything.
and I have a lot of people seem to
the
have
new
issues
way
with
of
it.
college
I have an issue
football.
with it.
People don't like the shit. That's why. Sorry.
I don't think it. A lot of it has to do with education, and I think a lot of it has to do with perception, and that's what I'm thinking about. Anyway, I'm alone in this, so I'll just.
But no. I just think that there's a lot of people that are around the country right now that still do not care for kids getting cars or money or any of it. You know, they just.
Well, I don't personally have a problem with that. I don't have any issues with that.
No, I didn't say you did. I was just saying that I think that if there is real hoopla, as you says, around, especially around Salt Lake City, I think it's probably because of that. You've got certain people that if they're not doing it at BYU, and so they're now all of a sudden it's it's one of those.
Bomber, what's your what do you find wrong? What
this is just bickering. BYU and Utah
anything,
bickering 100%.
I don't have
There's
anything.
no reason for the conflict at all.
Why are we there? Oh my gosh, there is no conflict. I'm not. It's not.
Check
a conflict.
social media. Social media went nuts yesterday about this.
You don't think, but I don't care about that. I don't care about any of that. I'm talking about us, the six of us.
Okay.
And my only question was the perception when inevitably there's going to be a wreck, and it's going to be a car that was provided by an NIL. That's
I think Moan just answered the question because Georgia gave a player a car and like he got in a massive wreck.
He killed somebody.
Kill people. Yeah. They've been.
But
doing that.
he didn't. He lost position in the draft. He was potentially number one in the draft and dropped to 10 or something.
Killed somebody though. I'm
not justifying it. Why are you guys saying?
Well, you're saying like lost position in the draft, like that's that's an adequate punishment.
No, he got charged.
I know.
He did plead
with a misdemeanor.
But that's a personal. That's like that. I mean,
at the end of the day,
it's decision. The bad look was that they're giving them Dodge Charger type stuff. These sports cars. That's not the same as giving them a Dodge Ram truck, but it's. It's I would say that
they're adults.
The perception problem. That's right. That's the other thing is that these kids are adults, and the problem that Georgia has is a bit of a perception problem with these kids hot rodding around. And it wasn't the first time that this has happened. They are not, as far as an accident, yes, but as far as they'd been having to pull them over and give them tickets and stuff like that for 2 years, from what I understand. It was something that was an ongoing issue out there in Athens, and so to me. That's the situation where that's a bad look right there, and Kirby needs to get that under control. No doubt.
That I agree with. Georgia's got an issue. I agree with that, but I have no issue with.
I don't have a problem with this thing.
I mean, West Virginia's there's a dealership up in West Virginia that's been giving players cars for over a year now. I mean, it's
okay.
So, I have a quick question on it, if I could real quick, but do all the trucks, are they going to have that wrap on them that we saw, or is that just the one that they were showing?
They all have the wrap on.
So that was my whole point. Is like if that's going to be on every single one of them, at some point in time, a picture can be taken of it in the process of doing something. And I think that me and Nate were on the same one in that, and I was just trying to be like, I'm not thinking in terms of like the legals, all of that. It's just the imagery of having that on all these trucks and what those trucks could be seen doing. That's my thing.
Exactly.
I think that the first thing that Witt says is, "Do not freaking get in a wreck."
Utah all over it. 18 to 22-year-old guys are going to get in wrecks. They're going to drive aggressive.
They're going to go off like 10 of them outside a strip club, like late one night, like just some crazy stuff. Like
if you guys don't think it matters for the program, then we can skip the topic.
No, it's a good conversation. But
I love the
topic. We're having fun with it, Bomber.
I think it's the idea of the wrap around the truck.
I don't mind. I don't mind being the only one here saying it. That doesn't bother me at all.
I don't think the hand in.
Then why you keep trying to move on to another subject?
Because because we have a lot of subjects to get through, Coos.
It's true, we do.
Sorry.
That's not the only thing we're talking about.
Sorry.
All right, the next thing we're talking about is Cam Rising.
Cam, my man.
And did a I don't know if you guys all heard it, but a very sympathetic message on a radio channel yesterday. And if you read his quotes, you can feel and you hear him actually speak. You're empathetic for the guy. You feel for the struggles he's been in. But the news that came out of that is that this was never going to be a simple operation and come and play in the first week of the season. That it was a MCL, PCL, ACL, and another MPCL or something. Like 4 different things he tore. Basically, turned his entire lower leg around, snapped all those ligaments. So he was never going to be able to come back to the beginning of the season. It was sold that he might even show up next week, and now it's quite obvious we might not see him this year. So, topic: what do you guys think about one, the reporting of that injury, and how that affects the program and everything around it, and 2, do we think that there's any liability, not liability, if there's any ownership that the university has to take for it?
I think that is actually a pretty smart strategic play to have people game planning for Rising when he was actually not going to be playing. Like Florida was trying to game plan for Rising, and all of a sudden he's not playing at all. Utah's 4-1. They're not 0-5, right? Like, I mean, Utah's benefited from this. So from a strategic standpoint, it's actually pretty smart. From like a fan standpoint and thinking like in betting standpoint and everything, if you're betting on the lines for Utah and you're thinking Rising is going to play. And guys, I had money on Cam Rising winning the Heisman this year, so that's not looking too good. For those kind of side bets, fun bets and stuff, it's not a good look. But I think that like from a winning standpoint and everything, as a Ute fan, I'm liking that because people have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks and to give the Utes an advantage. So I don't have any beef with it. If I'm an opposing team, I might have a beef with it, but I think if I'm winning him, I'm doing the exact same thing. And he's not. Rising's trying to come back this season. It's just a matter of when, right? It's probably not going to be versus Cal. It might be. We don't know for sure, but eventually he's going to get there. So I don't have any qualms with it at all.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just had one question for him, and this stems from our conversations before, where remember we had talked about the possibility of Cam not being on the team next year and having to transfer somewhere else. And we'd had discussions on this, and you had your opinion on it. So my question to you is, does this change your position on that at all, or your thoughts?
And you're speaking to me, Immaculate, on this? Oh, no way. No way. I want Cam Rising on my team any day of the week. Any day. This guy's a proven winner. He's the back-to-back Pac-12 champion.
He is. But
like if he sits out the season and comes into Big 12, Utah's going to be the heavy favorite to win the Big 12 next year. Like that's such an easy decision, I think, because I mean you've got a playoff berth you can probably easily get to next year in the Big 12 if you win the conference. So I would love that. That's my dream scenario. And there's a really big recruit, Isaac Wilson, Zach Wilson's little brother, that's committed to Utah right now. There's nothing better that I could think having Rising there a year and mentoring Isaac Wilson for the Big 12 in 2025 and beyond. I think it's a beautiful thing to even think about. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, but I would love it if that were to happen. So if Rising can't come back versus Cal or versus USC, then I'm thinking, hey, that's got to be the best case scenario, going forward to 2024.
I mean, there's always a chance he doesn't come back 100%. I mean, this sounds like there's a lot of work, but yeah. All right, we'll see how this one works out.
Jason or Coos?
I think that, as far as Witt goes, I don't blame him. That's what I mean. And he's, he's kind of like the military. He's not going to let anything get out, so I don't blame him at all. I think that, and again, I'm one of those guys that says that Kyle Whittingham's probably one of the top 3 coaches in the country anyway. So I definitely don't really have a beef with this. I think that if you can make people have to worry about Cam Rising when you don't, then you're one up on them. And I think that this team has proven that they are able to win without him. But I'm a fan of Cam too, man. After the way that he played in that Pac-12 championship game, and he stuck it to USC twice last year.
Little pretty boy, Caleb.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't have any beef with this either. I think that, you know, the gamblers probably have a problem with it because they wanted to see, that's why there's an injury report, by the way, folks, is for gambling. So, it's not like anybody is owed information out of these programs. I think you see all the best coaches in the country kind of lock down the fort whenever something's going on that they don't want you to know about. And if it can help them, even if it just makes you have to work harder to figure out what they're going to do, then you got to do that. You got to do that. So I get it. I understand it.
Coos.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with what he did either. I think it's, anything you can do to get a competitive advantage as long as it's within the rules. Neil Brown is actually an advocate for every team being required to put out an injury report every week.
Right.
But he says
that not required?
It's not apparently.
Oh.
Not in college football, it isn't.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but he said as long as it's not, then he'll take advantage of it, just like everybody else does. He basically said unless other coaches start doing it, I won't do it either. So, as far as releasing injuries, he'll report on some the obvious ones he'll talk about, but the ones that aren't, he'll just kind of give generic answers. I mean, we went a couple games not knowing who our quarterback was going to be, so same thing, just less severe, obviously. But yeah, I have no issue with what Witt did, and I hate it for the young man. I mean, it's just, especially someone that talented. Hopefully, he'll be able to make a full recovery and take advantage of his one extra year, and assuming he gets it, and be able to. Will he get it? Wild U, does he have another year, or will he have to get a waiver?
He's going to have to get a waiver here.
Yeah,
Cam Rising's 24 years old this year, so he's going to be a 25-year-old senior if this happens.
Yeah.
And the question is, does he want that? Does he still want to be in school, or does he want to try to make a pro practice squad? I don't think he's going to get drafted if he doesn't play much this year with his injury history. But it's a tough decision. Like, the NIL money might make sense to come back, but he's going to be 25. He's not a college kid anymore. He's a full-on adult guy.
Yeah, but he's also the leader of this football team. I mean, if you can get NIL money, they love you in Salt Lake City. Why would you not come back if you could? Other than trying to go out there and make a practice squad or get on. The NFL is not as easy to get on. I mean, look at Stetson Bennett won 2 national championships in a row. He can't stay on a team.
Exactly. You just nailed it, Jason. And that's the talk that's going on in youth circles, and people are losing their freaking lids in the local media when you're bringing this up and stuff. Not like the newspapers and stuff. They don't want to believe that he'd come back next year, but it's completely plausible. How that happens is he doesn't play.
He's talking about being back next year. He's going to be the number 1 pick.
It's not that. Yeah, it shouldn't be that shocking if he gets a bundle of NIL money. If Rising's making $1 million a year, NIL money, it's a lot more he's going to make in the pros. For his whole career, probably.
He probably won't. Yeah, he'll have a short NFL career more than likely, unless he's able to go out there and get his opportunity and kind of win the day. It's a tough. I mean, not everybody comes around and like we've seen some guys that they go late picks and stuff like that, and like the Niners quarterback right now. Look, that doesn't happen all the time. The NFL is a different animal. Yeah. So I think that if you got an opportunity to bring him back, why wouldn't you? And if you're Cam and you can be healthy and play one more year of football, it's almost like the whole thing with Sam Hartman there at Notre Dame. He's not having to go to class or anything like that. He's just playing football, and he's making money and has an opportunity to. I still think that I think they have an opportunity for the playoff for sure. So I don't know why you wouldn't. 1 year get a shot at the Big 12 and maybe you get in.
Okay. Let's quickly move. Moen, I'm going to skip you for a second. We'll come back to you after this, but Ute has to go. So I didn't want to let him leave before we talk about the last news item in Salt Lake City at Utah. I don't know that it's breaking news, but it's clarifying news that the main person that was advocating for $50 million a year for realignment money per school was the president of the University of Utah, and it was a University of Utah professor that helped him come up with that number. Remind me his name, Taylor Randall. Yeah, yep. Taylor Randall's the president. So that obviously that kind of blew up like a bomb at about 4 p.m. our time tonight. So first, Ute, tell us. I can kind of picture what you did when you heard that, but tell us.
Oh, when I read that, I almost fell off my chair. Honestly, it's like, come on, it's got to be the Utes.
Right.
Look,
seriously.
Yeah,
Killed the
right. Like with
conference.
all the other stuff going on, with like with realignment, the Big 12 and stuff, it's like, of course, right? Here's the reality, though, guys. $50 million. I mean, that was really Randall's counter offer after the $30 million offer that ESPN threw on the table for the Pac. My question's this. Does Oregon and Washington, do they stay for anything less? Really, do they sign? And so it's kind of all of this, it looks like really stupid, but it's a moot point because I don't think that Oregon and Washington are staying for anything less. So maybe that was in the assessment. We don't have enough information, but maybe that 50 million was like, hey, this is what it takes to keep all these teams to sign and grant their rights to the Pac. And so we don't have that information, but I can just think about that. And like, if I'm Oregon and Washington, I'm not signing a $30 million contract because the Big Ten's looming, just like we knew. And so it looks stupid. It doesn't sound good and everything, but it probably wouldn't have changed reality, I think. And it really might have been the figure that actually could have kept the Pac alive if ESPN would have been game or even negotiated a little bit down and stuff in the 40 million. So I don't know. I hate that Utah's like in front of that, and it was like a Utah professor that came up with that number, and you look like an idiot because ESPN's like, no way, right? But really, that might have been the wedge that you needed to get the conference to survive. So that's my thoughts on it.
Coos, what do you think? Thanks, Ute. That's perfect.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be one of the schools that weren't coming to the Big 12, you know. But you know, I mean, in my mind, I kind of figured it was Arizona State, to be perfectly honest with you, just because of the history with their leadership. I was a little surprised that it was Utah. Not shocked, but surprised. I just figured it would be somebody else. I knew that deep down they didn't want to make the move, but I didn't know they would be. On the surface, it looks like he was a little bit arrogant about, overvaluing the conference.
Right.
So.
Moen.
Yeah, listen, there's more to this story that needs to come out, and it will come out. Utah was not the only guilty party in that.
That's absolutely true. Yep.
There were other people that were going right along and saying, yeah, 50 million. That sounds about right. Yeah.
That's right.
50 million. Yep, 50 million. That's how if we get 50 million, we can get UCLA to stay. And but if we give them unequal revenue share, then Oregon and Washington will want it too. So yeah, give 50 million sounds about, it's an echo chamber. You can't blame just Utah. The Pac-12's laying dead on the Senate floor with knife wounds, and 8 senators are standing around with bloody knives.
Right.
Everybody took their shot at that one. So
I think that's really important. We don't lose sight of the fact that, especially in John Canzono's article, you see a lot of it intimated that they're piling on Kliavkoff and basically blaming him for the whole thing. All these presidents are trying to throw him under the bus. And I want to keep everybody's eyes up and say, don't get lost in that detail, because I think he was pretty much, he had no teeth in the whole thing. He could only do what they let him do.
Right. Yeah, Larry Scott. That's the guy to blame, Larry Scott.
Larry Scott, yeah, you could say that.
I think it was and I think that what Moen was saying is it was a conference-wide deal to go with this narrative that they were going to get so much more money than the Big 12. I just think that they were trying to survive and they were trying to do what they were trying to do, but it was a bunch of lies from the get-go. And I think that the presidents have had a lot to do with this for a long time. I don't think it was just Kliavkoff either. I think that Kliavkoff's a dunce, but I do think that this was a conference-wide failure as a whole. Period. So
very fair. Immaculate.
Well, I would say that I think the purpose of the article itself was actually to take out Kliavkoff.
Yeah.
But you have to get into it to see that. That's what was interesting, because the part that he showed publicly, it went kind of after Utah. But once you get into it, it just kind of spread out all over the place, but really went after Kliavkoff. In terms of what Utah did, you couldn't write a better storyline for Utah to come in and kind of be the villain and have all this attention. And that's not necessarily a bad role to have. I mean, you got to be a winner in order to be that, and Utah is that.
Oh yeah, they're the dark side of the force.
Yeah, so to me, it's just like Papadu said, that really rang with me. I was just like, of course Utah comes out in this and gets this attention, and it is due in part, I think, to actually having some competent leadership there. I mean, I'm not going to look at this and say that they weren't. They had a goal that they wanted to get, and they fell short of it. I mean, they went for it and they missed. That happens.
Very fair. Okay, I know you got to go. You got to finish moving.
Take care, y'all. I'm finished moving.
Next
week, I'm hoping to have a real office again here without having to work in makeshift stations here. So get the podcast station up and running. But hey, it was good to talk with you, Jason, Coos, and of course, always immaculate Moan. So Bomber, take care.
See you, buddy.
Enjoy the
Have
week.
a great time.
Seeing the new office.
Yeah.
See you.
Utah's undefeated this weekend.
Yeah, they are. We'll keep it that way.
Yeah, that's right. All right, guys.
I gotta get out of here too, buddy. I gotta go. I've got Stephen Coleman coming on in 30 minutes.
Get out of here. I appreciate it, Jason.
So
you've been great.
Check it out whenever you're done.
We've tracked your picks, so we'll talk about those next week. Do you want to say anything else, Jason? Tell everybody who you are and where they can find you.
At CFP-pod on the obviously on YouTube. It's at CFB-pod. We actually have former Sooner defensive tackle Stephen Coleman coming on. He played with Gerald McCoy, Tommy Harris back in the day. And for Coach Venables, we're going to talk about more Red River Rivalry stuff. So jump on and check us out whenever these guys are finished up.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Everybody.
And then there were
So you were on earlier in chat when I couldn't bring you on because we had so many people earlier, Coos.
Yes.
Is there anything you wanted to talk about either through the picks or you can start talking about West Virginia a little bit?
Yeah, I heard a few of the picks, but I didn't hear them all, so I don't know if I would be able to talk about that too much, just because I don't want to, I don't know what teams you guys were picking. So all of them.
That's fine, no problem.
As far as West Virginia, I mean, obviously we're this is our quote unquote bye week, even though it's not really a full week because we play Thursday night, so they're having to practice this weekend.
Okay.
They only had a couple of days off, unfortunately, but we needed it, man. I don't know if you guys watched our game against TCU, but we had several guys get injured in that game.
I saw the second half.
Yeah, we had.
It was a bloodbath.
We had two guys get carted off on a stretcher.
Yeah.
One of those is a season ender, the broken leg. The other one, the one that looked the worst, is actually, I think he may actually potentially be able to play this week. We're not sure yet. All of his tests were negative.
Okay.
So it's kind of, it's going to probably see how he handles it. And, I don't know if it's a concussion or what, but it may just depend on how he feels and how he does, as they get closer to game day. But had a couple offensive linemen go down. I think they'll be okay. I'll be honest with you, man. I think TCU's got a couple players that they like to hit after the whistle. And
I saw some comments on social media. I didn't actually see the hits. So
the same guy injured two players, and one of them was an eye poke after the whistle.
Jeez.
And he was so bad he couldn't see, so they couldn't put him back in the game.
That guy, he should be kicked out for the crap like that.
Yeah, it's not good. But I mean, I know last year there was a lot of controversy about TCU injuring everybody's quarterbacks, and I just thought it was bad luck. But now I'm starting to wonder now that my team's kind of been on the receiving end of it too.
Right.
Kind of makes you wonder, But anyway, I don't want to, I'm sure that stuff happens everywhere. We just don't always see it.
Well, but man, West Virginia is 4-1. They're beating people. They're looking good. They only lost to Penn State. So what's the rest of the season look for this squad?
Well, I mean, if you look at our schedule, every game on our schedule is winnable. Of course, they're all losable, but the only one that we shouldn't be expected to at least be able to win is Oklahoma. I mean, we got Bomber. We got you guys coming to Morgantown later in the year.
Yeah, that's a trip. I'm not looking forward to that team. You guys are going to whoop us, I think.
Yeah, I'm supposed. I should be at that game.
Cool.
So I'll get to hopefully meet a few of your fellow BYU fans.
Good.
Make the trip. But yeah, that's going to be a tough one. We have obviously Oklahoma in Norman. That's going to be a tough one. And we have Cincinnati coming to Morgantown. We obviously go to Houston next week. Oklahoma State at home. Like my partner Mountaineer Paul's been talking about, we traded Texas, Kansas, and Kansas State and Iowa State for the 4 newcomers. We feel like that's, no offense, but we feel like that's a pretty good trade.
You guys got all the new teams?
Yes, all 4.
Yes, I think you did go to a trade. I don't think anybody would deny that.
Yeah. Not that those teams will be easy. Okay, and we have to go to the bounce house too to play UCF. I forgot about that one. That's going to be a tough one.
Right.
And we closed the year at Baylor. So, but I mean, all those games are probably going to be close games. I mean, we're not good enough we're not a team that's going to blow anybody out. You know, every game's probably going to be close, going to be grinded out, smash mouth football, because that's kind of how this team's built.
Right.
So every game's winnable, but every game's also losable. If you know. Okay. So, but we could. I mean, it's possible we could go, 10-2.
Wow, you think so?
No,
okay.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to happen. But I mean, if you look at our schedule, we will probably be favorites in most of those games, with the exception of Oklahoma, maybe UCF, and maybe BYU, depending on how you guys do the rest of the way.
Yeah, if we beat Texas Tech, it might be different.
Yeah,
that's true.
So I mean, my anticipation is probably 8-4, 9-3 ballpark.
That's a great season, considering everybody was talking about 3-4 wins.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, you know how it is to be a fan. You say that, and then you'll be mad that they didn't win that one game or that.
Sure.
But yeah, look, sitting here right now, where we expected to finish 8-4, 9-3 will be a pretty good year, and will, in my opinion, be enough for Neil Brown to keep his job, and which it should be, and then hopefully move into next year with some optimism. That's kind of what we're hoping for.
Brian Thomas says he'll meet you. You know who he is. So he'll be there. I would definitely DM him, and you guys set up a meet.
Yeah, I don't know what he looks like, but hopefully we can.
He's not he's not the goodest looking guy, but he's very nice. So
yeah.
All right, Immaculate or Moen,
I have
you guys
to DM
have
him.
questions? Yeah, definitely. Ryan, send him a DM. There we go. All right, Immaculate or Moen, do you guys have any questions while we've got our West Virginia?
I might drive down to Morgantown just to see that culture clash.
The BYU game?
At the BYU game.
Well, we've been there before. We've played there before.
Really?
And lost.
Yeah. I thought we played you guys at FedEx Field.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. It was not. That wasn't in Morgantown. Okay. I apologize. You're right.
Well, I wasn't 100% sure, but I was thinking.
No, you're right. We did play there. Yep, you're right.
It's like a 2-hour drive for me, but I might make it. I don't want to see the game. I just want to kind of people watch. Get me a 30-pack of Natty Light to put on my shoulder.
There you go.
That way I've got camouflage.
There you go.
That's like the secret password to getting through without getting mauled, right? I got this. I'm good to go.
With all your different looks, Moen, you wouldn't have to hide, man. You're camouflaged.
I could put on the mullet, and I can just blend in right there. I can go west by God, Virginia.
Hey, get your mullet.
Don't say by God.
Now it's gonna be November, but you might get your mullet and a pair of shorts and a pair of cowboy boots, man. You'll be good to go.
That BYU
striped athletic socks.
Sorry, Moen, go ahead.
No, I was supposed to say just cowboy boots and striped athletic socks.
Oh, there you go. All right. And unbuttoned button-up shirts.
Yeah.
Ryan says we played in DC, which is what you just said.
Right.
It was at FedEx. I got it wrong.
That's okay. And it was a pretty good game, if I remember, too.
It was. It was like, I think, the last possession.
Yeah.
If I remember.
It was.
So, Immaculate.
I don't even know what to say about West Virginia this year. I've hardly looked at them leading up to it because there was no talk about them being good. But now as a 4-1 team, what would you say? I don't know if you could just say to listen here, like strengths are. What's like I've been pretty open on offensive line. Like how's their offensive line? Like what is there to look for in West Virginia if they continue this and become a contender maybe at the end of the year?
Well, our offensive line is arguably the strength of our team. Zach Frazier, our center, is an All-American, and we actually have a general manager. West Virginia has a general manager on their staff. And he was in an interview the other day, and he said that he said Zach Frazier was, I forget the guy's name, the GM, he used to work for the Dallas Cowboys, and they drafted a center from Wisconsin a few years back that's a starter in the NFL, and he said Zach Frazier was better than him. So that's pretty good compliment. And then and we've got 2 tackles that'll probably also play in the NFL as well. So our offensive line is really good. Our defense, even though most people expected our defense to be bad this year, they have been lights out. They have been. They're the reason we're winning games right now. I mean, we're one of the top in the country in quarterback hurries, quarterback hits, just all those types of plays, havoc rate. I mean, we're causing havoc for every quarterback we play. Yes, a couple of those quarterbacks haven't been very good, but we've made them even worse, when we played them. So our defense has been absolutely great so far. You could say elite. The only, we don't have a whole lot of depth though, which is a little concerning, especially with the injuries we were mentioning earlier. But if most of those guys are okay, we should be fine. And then so defense, pressure on the quarterback, and our offensive line, and then we like to run the football. Our passing game has been terrible, but we've been able to run the ball.
It sounded very familiar.
Control the clock. Yeah, we're playing Iowa football basically.
I was like, this sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mike Smith's obviously a West Virginia fan. He's saying, no, West Virginia's bad. We will not win another game. You guys are killing me small.
Yeah, I put out a short today saying West Virginia, don't eat the rat poison.
I love that.
Because now people are starting to pay attention and respect them a little bit more,
Right. Yeah.
And they've been using that picked last in the conference as motivation all year,
Right.
And I don't want them to lose that chip on their shoulder.
So Neil has done a good job. You think?
He has done a good job. Yep.
Okay.
And I was a guy that thought he should have been fired at the end of last year, and I've I'm going to give credit where
I kind of thought that.
I'm going to give credit where it's due, man. He's coaching to what he has, coaching to his strengths, and that's what good coaches do.
I think the perception is changing for West Virginia this season, and what it's doing is setting up next season, right, Justin?
Yes.
Everything just like, and I would say the same thing for BYU. You're not going to win the conference, but if you can go out and get 7-8 games, that's a great season. You'll be favored in a lot of games next year. Plus your recruiting goes up, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think, and that's why all these people talking about Dana Holgorsen being on the hot seat. I think that's ridiculous. And I'm not a Dana Holgorsen guy, but I mean, it's their first year in the conference, man.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy.
And he was open before the season started that they weren't ready yet, that it would take them a year or two to get there. So I think people need to pump the brakes on wanting to fire these coaches who are moving up, whose teams are moving up a conference, in year one. I mean, that's just unrealistic expectations, in my opinion. Now, losing to Rice, I understand they should be mad about that. They shouldn't have lost to Rice. But the other games, I wouldn't be so mad about.
Stephen G says, Coos, I have to apologize. I did not see West Virginia being this good.
Hey, man, none of us did.
Yeah.
To be honest. I knew they had a chance to be. I had them sitting at 3-2. I'm sorry, 2-3 at this point in the season. So that tells you what I thought.
Yeah, I think it's fair. And I really look at the way West Virginia recruits a lot like BYU does. So I think they're gonna be similar going into the future. I think you're gonna be because Neil Brown sticking around is huge. That continuity. Look what happened with these schools that have no continuity. They fall apart, right?
Yeah, and we have a lot of young talent on our team.
Right.
So if he gets fired, a lot of those guys will hit the portal. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's see. I'm looking for other comments. I thought Jeff Fuller might join us, but he hasn't joined. So
is Numbskull still out there?
I don't know. Is Numbskull still out there? We're doing sort of a rotating visitors show tonight. So if you have we can go another few minutes. If you want to join the show, I'm going to put the link right there in the comment section. Click on that, and we can take a couple questions if you guys have them.
We got a few. We got Rebecca. We got Pickles. All kinds of folks out there right now.
Yeah, we're just not going to be bringing them on and leaving them.
Oh, yeah,
I think probably what will happen is we'll end up just finishing with. Let's see. Here's Jeff Fuller. Here he is. There you are. Took you long enough.
What's up?
Say, Jeff. Thanks for getting,
what's going on?
Thanks for getting dressed for us. We appreciate that.
We got Sergeant Pickles too. So Pickles and Fuller, what's on you guys' mind? We got a few minutes here.
No dogs. What's going on, everybody?
What's up, Pickles?
Well, I was curious. I was asking Moen and Immaculate. This is very specific to us, not very Big 12-ish, but the Big 10 schedule release, they scrapped it, they redid it, and I actually kind of like what they came up with. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I mean, it could have been worse. It, we've got some interesting new matchups, but for Iowa, we really can't complain. They gave us about as much as they possibly could with our protected rivals. So I don't know. What do you think, Moen?
On the Ohio State side, I loved it. I thought it was a great schedule.
Yeah. Who did you get out of the new 4?
We get all of them eventually, but first 2 years we've got at Oregon, and then the next year it's at Washington.
Okay.
Ohio plays at UW next year, and I think we go to the Shoe in 26. I want to say 26 or 27.
Okay.
They got it so that basically every 4. I don't know if it's 100% for sure, but it's like roughly every 4 years you're gonna go to every stop, every 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, it's every 3 to 5 years you play everybody at least once.
And for the West Coast guys, when you have that year where you got 5 road games, one of them will always be your rival. So it's really only 4 cross-country trips per year. So it's not bad.
Immaculate?
Next, I was talking to Immaculate for good recommendations because we go to Kinnick to play Iowa next year, and I was thinking of making the trip.
Yeah, I was giving them some sites to look at and things to look at. It's not a huge town, Iowa City, but there's plenty there to do for a good time. And if you're going there for the tailgating, you'll have a pretty good time.
Yeah, they're good tailgaters.
Kinnick's a great environment.
As I was like, you're gonna have a hard time finding people to like yell at you when you're at Iowa. Like there's just a lot of Iowa nice going on there. So unless you say something about the Ferences, you're probably good.
Yeah, that Midwestern hospitality is legendary, so I'll put it to the test. I'm actually a pretty mild fan. I go in my full purple kitted out, but just walking around, I just like talking and hanging out with people. If they can kind of give me crap in a lighthearted way, I can give it right back. We're going to be just fine.
I mean, if you were
my only issue this weekend is that all my teams are off except for Wazoo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Every one of my teams isn't playing this weekend.
Seahawks and Huskies are both on bye. I got a free weekend.
Yeah,
which is why I'm working on this fence.
Numbskull's here. How you doing, Numbskull? Good to see you.
Good. I'm just trying to figure out, where does Sergeant Pickles come from? Where is that name coming from? That's a cool name.
So it's not a very exciting story. I was actually a sergeant in the Marine Corps many years before I grew this, and so my first name is actually Dylan, and my family is a nickname called me Dylan for Dill Pickle since I was, tiny, and I can't get rid of the damn name. So instead of shunning it, I've just embraced it, and now I think more people know me as Sergeant Pickles than by my real name. So it all works out, man.
That's cool. I had a Marine recruiter in high school that scared the crap out of me. He's like, I was just kind of looking around, the little kiosk they put up there, and he was like, "Why do you want to join the Marines?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't," and I ran away. I mean, dude,
there you go.
Yeah, the uniform does not hurt. They're not that scary.
No,
Fuller,
he was.
Jeff, sorry. Did you have a point you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I mean, I had one question since we're on the Big Ten schedule. Have Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State always been paired with the same amount of home games each year? Or have they flipped? Because it looks like they all started with 5 home games with the new schedule. Were they on cycle for that, or did they sort of take advantage of sort of a new schedule and some newbies to get an extra home game, which is their right? But if they, is that viewed as sort of trying to keep the big program, sort of no one having an advantage over one another?
Just
with having the extra.
I think it's always flipped. I believe it's always flipped between who gets 5 and who gets. I think it's always flipped. because they try and keep things as equal as possible. Now, unfortunately, with the divisions in the last decade, that's clearly not the case because of how bad the Big West has been. But they try and keep things as equal as possible.
I may have it backwards here, but do they all have 4 home games the first year and 5 away?
I believe it's 5 and 4.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, that'll be that's the away games. So that was just something I noticed. And I wonder if that was maybe a stipulation of the 3 programs that, hey, we're going to be vying for championships each year. Let's all have the same amount of home games each year. Let's get on the same cycle.
Well, I think that if you really look at those schedules, they plan on having at least 6 teams vying for national championships.
Oh yeah,
each year. They're trying to get as many teams into that college football playoff as possible.
Sure, and that makes
so one
sense.
of our, sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, and then my other point was just I loved your show with Bob Thompson that was almost a week ago. And I wrote up an article on ESPN960.com about sort of how that meshed with some information I had heard about, a guy contacted me out of the blue saying, hey, I've seen some internal documents at BYU a few years ago, and it showed that BYU was right around 20th in the nation for media value. And I'm like,
wow.
What? He's like, yeah, our fans don't believe it, but I've seen ESPN's documents. And wow. He said he pushed. He's like, because the viewership's not there. It's nowhere near the top 20 on viewership. But he said he pushed people, and they said, yeah, the media companies really value widespread fan bases because they can drive advertising at a national level in some of the bigger markets, like LA, Phoenix, Seattle, Dallas. BYU doesn't have a presence really in Chicago or New York or Miami or those, but all the Western ones, there's a core of fans, and that really helps drive it. It's sort of like Notre Dame on a miniature scale. Notre Dame has tons of fans in all the major markets, and that's part of why they're so valuable. Is they're not a concentrated fan base, but they're all over the place. And, so that was just, and Marshawn said a couple times that Notre Dame has. Moen's going to love this. That Notre Dame has the most TV value of any team in the nation. That was Marshawn on 2 different occasions said that, and then that's part of why. So just an interesting little tidbit that came, from this show right here, or the Holy Rivals show, I think it was.
Right.
I forget if this is Big 12 Mafia or this is Holy Rivals today. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a great question. We are splitting them apart. We've sort of made this like a co-branded Friday sort of pick for both groups, but yeah, I think for now on, a lot of the analytical stuff is going to come on the Holy Rivals. That's something you really cares about. We'll still have Bob Thompson on here, but anyways, we're going to have to manage it. It's going to be a little messy. But I think I saw your article. I just didn't get a chance to read it. So I'll go back and read it. I saw it today. I appreciate you. The shout out. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Trying to drive a little, got some links there back to the show.
You did awesome. All your help is very much valued. You and Ryan have been great friends of the show, and we need to have you back on to do another show with you. I think we need to schedule that.
Yep. Yeah, I think we go. Sounds good.
Numbskull, you came on. Did you have a particular topic you wanted to mention?
Well, I forgot my tinfoil hat, and I do need to.
You can borrow Ute. He built one.
And I need to thank Immaculate. That was like a week's worth of content. It really was. And I love nothing but a good bar fight on YouTube. That's awesome. Especially when another fat guy, 2 fat guys fighting. Come on. That's the best. But
okay. Well, yeah, you can have him out on loan. You have to talk to Moen. Moen's his scheduling agent. And then I get 10%. I get 10% of the rake. So, it works out for me too. So.
Just come up with the ideas. And then I'll just make a video, use a bunch of expletives, and put it out.
There you go. I love it.
We'll give you a little heads up every time.
There you go.
Before you go, here's one last question from Nathan Campbell. Lost Pickles, and now he's back.
We got him.
Are you there? Okay.
Android phone.
So this is the last question, and then we'll wrap it up after this. Nathan Campbell says, by the way, Nathan, thank you for being here. He says, Bomber, I got a question for how's the Big 12 doing next year? Start with the Big 10 guys. We'll go with Pickles first.
Oh, it feels weird to be in that group now. I think the Big 12, I think they're actually looking on the up. I think their recruiting is going to have a certain appeal all its own, especially with the new schools coming in. You're going to possibly have a lot more West Coast influence. I know it's kind of, people have a weird perception about whether people care about football on the West Coast, but there's no doubt, especially in a state like California, you got to draw some recruiting from out there. And whatever guys, SC, Washington, and Oregon don't pick up, start reaching out west. It's not just Texas that has big time recruits. So I think that'll actually even out the conference a little bit. And I think you could genuinely have a stretch where maybe you go, 7 champions in 8 years, different teams, right, and it'll be top to bottom, just like we thought about, kind of like with West Virginia this year. People were picking some of them to finish last. They're 4-1 with a reasonably difficult schedule. I think you'll see quite a lot of that.
Nathan Campbell clarified his question. He's talking about the scheduling. So maybe like the pods and how they break that down. That's do you think that's going to be protected rivals? And do you have it in your mind? Do you have a number how they're going to set that up?
I haven't done the crazy math on it. I like kind of looking at those scheduling things. They would be smart to take a leaf out of the Big Ten book and protect the ones that need protecting, right, and leave the rest open. You don't lock yourself in too rigid, but you save all the important rivalries. That way you can be like immaculate and basically your whole schedule is penciled in for you with all your protected teams.
Okay.
Or you can be like Penn State and just, pull numbers out of a hat. But yeah, I think you protect, your BYU, Utah is a dead giveaway, but I think even Arizona State, and there was some scuttlebutt on the Big Ten schedule. Oh, well, should all of the West Coast teams have locked each other in and they only chose to do your direct rival? But that gives me more opportunities to play at Ohio State, to play at Penn State, to go to Michigan. And I think
to go to Rutgers, to go to Maryland.
Hey, next year we play Rutgers and Northwestern. We also get Michigan and Penn State. I'm fine with it. There is no easy year.
If anyone ever gives you trouble about Rutgers, just tell them that you're going to go play the oldest football team in the entire country. That's all we say.
There you go.
We played them recently and beat them twice. I'm not that worried.
It's just a built-in argument because everyone talks shit about Rutgers being in the Big Ten.
Numbskull, what do you think? You have a vested interest in this.
Well, on one hand, I'm always hopeful for the Big 12, but I think it's going to be exciting with all the damn parity. But I like the pods. And as far as protected rivals, you can kind of do both because pods, that you're locking in 3 games.
Right.
Yeah, you got a whole bunch more games, conference games that you can schedule. So if you got to have Farmageddon, immaculate. If you have to have Farmageddon, you can have it. You can have it. I mean, if you're Iowa State and you're the Eastern Pod, you can still have Farmageddon every year.
Right.
It's not just about that one game, though. It's about them being with the teams that they've been with for the whole time, and that conference is what is the basis for the Big 12.
I got you a violin right here, sir.
I know you want all 4 Texas teams in the same division, but Houston just got there. No, it doesn't. Houston just got there.
So it's Houston. It's a huge market.
Houston is your Rutgers.
They're with UCF and Cincy last I checked, so they can still be with them.
All right.
No, we're just having a good chat. It's fine. Whichever way it goes, I don't care. It's the Cyclones that much, but that's just my point on that.
Okay.
In terms of what they do, just if I can say one thing on this,
you can do it. Take your turn. Yeah, go ahead.
And it's kind of funny that the Big Ten is getting theirs already through 28, and SEC has theirs, and the Big 12 doesn't. Even though it looks like it should be pretty easy to do. You could go pods, or you can go very easy with rivals, and yet it's not been done yet. So my question is why?
Washington State and Oregon State. That's why we don't want
to come up with whatever you want for your own answer, but that's all I got in mind.
That's my answer. It's been my answer since April. So
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Moen.
Jeff or Moen.
Why doesn't Penn State have a rival?
Another good question.
And I'll leave it at that.
Everybody hates Penn State.
Coming to the Big 12, baby.
Let's just say there might be another school coming to the Big Ten real soon.
Okay. Break news right now.
That was it.
Well, no, that's it.
I'm telling you, I want the
Just
actual
draw
news,
your own conclusions onto what that school is that would be a rival for Penn State.
Like
I know what
that
I
might
know
have history with them.
West Virginia.
That's it.
That actually you think. Well done. Got it.
Mo, let me grab you my big spatula so you can stir that pot, brother.
All
You
right,
just better
Jeff.
get used to a whole lot of bitching if you get West Virginia.
Yeah.
Jeff, what do you think?
They poke us in the eye.
I mean, Oregon State, Washington State. I'm just still not seeing it, not feeling it. They just. I know I've heard I've heard Immaculate's, arguments. I just think at the end of the day, I don't know if they have the legal stand. I think everyone in the college football playoff can just decide, hey, you're not part of this anymore, and they can vote them out.
People think that, but that's not how the voting works now, though, Jeff. Like, I mean, that's the thing that's hard to get to people is like they can't just do that. People think that they should be able to, but it doesn't work that way.
They can change the rules as they need to.
It's made so that they can't. Notre Dame would not have agreed to the contract from the beginning if they could just change the rules to kick someone out, because they would have kicked Notre Dame out a long time ago.
I just don't.
What he's saying is it has to be unanimous. That's what he's saying.
And that's just how the rules are. It seems weird and crazy and unbelievable and one hell of a shit show, but that's how they set it up, and they never had a chance to change it before Colorado hit the bricks.
And that expires.
So why does the Big 12? Why does the Big 12 take the financial hit of adding dilutive programs?
It's a good question, and I don't think that they would just on its own face. Like, they're not in this for charity. They have to get something that they want. What I get from people who respond to that is, well, everyone wants some schools from the ACC. Okay, so going from that and what people want, I'd say a lot of people also say that there isn't value for schools to go from the ACC to the Big 12, even if you lose some schools. And if that's the case, if I'm your Mark, I'm saying you made it easy for Oklahoma and Texas to join the SEC by direct payments. That's what I want if I'm your Mark. If we're going to do this favor for everyone else, that's what it is. It's not the Big 12 saying, we love Washington State and Oregon State. It's saying, we're doing all of you a favor and ourselves so we can get that PAC money. We'll take them, but you're giving us this. And so, fill in the blank with what you think your Mark gets for doing that, because it's not for charity.
Yeah, and I come from I see this more as, not expanding through realignment by adding SMU and others, but I think it's consolidation, and the Pac-12, the two weakest, least valuable brands and fan bases, wonderful people. I don't mean to offend anyone, but you look at the metrics, you look at the attendance, you look at the revenue, they're at the bottom there. I think they're trying to find a way to get rid of some of those brands. And when the ACC goes through it, I think Wake and Boston College are on the chopping block. So far we've been seeing expanding, and, other people are talking about mega conferences and shrinking down to just 40 or 50 teams. So I think it's more consolidation, and I just don't see how Oregon State and Washington State make it in. I could definitely be wrong, though.
Yeah, no, and I could be wrong. I'm just pointing out that, they've kind of held up the whole process. Like, you couldn't you can't even add in ACC schools right now because they never got the rule passed that with more schools you get paid per school rather than conference. So every school that they add now, you're getting less CFP money for each one.
I think one thing
I thought that was changed. Wasn't that just changed?
They wanted to, but it actually was not changed. They've been talking about changing that.
That's going to change. No way.
If you can get Schultz to change, but Schultz is a unanimous vote, and he's blocking it for now.
So I think what we need to do is have another show, maybe not next week, but the week after, where you guys actually have documents you can reference, and you can actually draw A, B, C, D, option B2, so people can track what you're saying. Because I think what is happening now is we've got so many ideas. They're conflating. People think there's conflict in one and there's none. In other places, they don't think there's conflict, and there is conflict. So it's just a suggestion, but we could easily throw a show together. Jeff, if you want to do it, you could get with Ryan, and let's get some documents, and we can actually draw a picture, actually a flow chart to say, if this happens, then this could happen, or this could happen. And that way people can visually see it, because I think at this point we've had so many stories, so many shows, and it just everything's getting conflated.
No, and it's become a popular talking point among other people, and they're kind of changing the story as they go as well.
Right, and they're not even using the same premise. They've changed the premise. So, anyways, I would love to do that. I know we have a lot of people that would like to be involved in something like that, but that's a suggestion, you guys. If you want to work on something,
Jeff's a pro at this stuff, so if he wants to head up, I'm down to work with him on anything like that. That'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah, let's look into it.
Moen, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I also disagree with Immaculate, but only because I think Oregon State and Washington State join the ACC.
And that's the other halo. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an option, definitely.
We'll leave it there. Guys, this has been a fantastic show. I was expecting an hour, and we got two. That's because we've had all these great contributors. I want to thank Jason. I want to thank Coos. I want to thank Sergeant Pickle. Thank Tank. I want to thank Sergeant Pickle, Numbskull, and Jeff Fuller for being here. You guys, you've been fantastic. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out and asking if you wanted to be on the show. We don't have a show tomorrow. Our next show is going to be Tuesday night. So I would encourage everybody to have a good weekend. Be safe. Stay out of trouble. Try not to hit a Utah player in his NIL truck when he's racing on I-15. Try not to do that. That would be bad. And other than that, we will have a great weekend. So if everybody wants to say bye, I'm going to say peace out. And we're leaving. Oh, wait. Let's do sign outs. Pickles and Numbskull. Why don't you tell Jeff, tell people who you are.
I got nothing to plug. I'm just another talking idiot on Twitter, but
Dang.
It's going to be an exciting year. I got the week off, so I'm going to get some yard work done, but I'll be catching some of these other games. 3 things. Pack is dead. Long live the pack. Whack is whack. And go Dogs.
Go Dogs. All right. Thanks a lot, Pickles. Appreciate it. Numbskull.
Just an idiot on freaking YouTube. That's it. Numbskull News.
Club.
Check it out.
And you, Jeff. You're not a numbskull. I know that. You're on mute if you're talking.
Muted.
Yep. Just like I said, just an idiot on Twitter. Still figuring out how to use these newfangled computers. But
right.
Right. Do some articles for ESPN 960 occasionally. But love joining the show. Love the Cougars. Go Cougs. Great show here, guys.
And I'll set up a show maybe next week, Jeff, where you can come in and we can go through that document. Maybe Wednesday.
We'll look at it. All right.
Okay. Yeah. What is your schedule on Wednesday right now?
We'll have to figure it out offline. I'm out of town right now. Got to get back.
Are you still in Amsterdam?
Yeah.
Nice.
Fun for you. We're all jealous.
It's 3 in the morning. This is how you.
All right. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. Everybody else, peace out. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.